very active peanut gallery over there. Okay, so my name's Bob Cooney. I'm going to be moderating the next two sessions. We'll try to keep them moving along, and interesting. A little background on me: I've been in and around VR since 1990. I helped Edison Brothers Mall Entertainment, Horizon Entertainment launch virtuality at the IAAPA show in 1991. Started a laser tech company in 1990 called LaserStorm. I was an early stage executive for a company called Global VR in the late 90s, where we had a very successful VR arcade system. We were one of the first companies to license consumer video games and put them back into arcade games in the early PC days. So since then, I've gone on to do a bunch of boring stuff with digital jukeboxes, and I've always been on the leading edge of amusement technology. So this whole the third go round for VR is really interesting to me. So I'm going to pass the microphone, and I guess we have some. Who's running the videos, or do we need somebody on the laptop? Cool, thank you. So we have some very short videos for each presenter, panelist. While we're doing that, a couple of questions. How many of you are operating some type of retail location today? Raise your hand. I got a few of you out there. Awesome. All right, cool. So Jeremy, are you up first? All right, cool. So there's Jeremy Lamb, founder of the inaugural and hopefully everlasting company.
Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy Lamb. I'm the director of this VR Arcade conference. Thank you for coming. I'm also the founder and CEO of the Virtual World Arcade. Please play the video. Thank you, sir. Back two. And then look for the mouse. And then move the mouse down. Thank you very much. So we are VR Arcades. We're very new. We are in the arcade space where people can come in and run around and play VR games. We just launched earlier this past weekend at Nickel City. So we're trying to solve two problems here. Today I can't walk down the street and play VR games with my friends, and today I can't play the VR experience that we want. So we have our own studio, we write our own titles, and our goal is to be able to partner with local existing arcades, laser tag places, airsoft arenas, and bring and grow virtual arcades in each of these locations. So that's essentially what we are. The two VR Arcade Mixer events that you guys saw, I saw several of you guys attending, thank you for coming, was a huge success. It was an amazing experience running customers through that for the first time and playing our game. If you haven't tried it, you guys can come over to our right over here virtual arcade booth and try and play our game.
Hi, my name is Goose. I'm with Mantis VR. We're a very small VR startup based in San Francisco. My partner and I are actually, our namesake comes from the Instead Mantis Kung Fu School, which is where we are founded. And we're looking to create games that can also help teach early Kung Fu practices.
Hi, I'm Tim Roos, the CEO of Zero Latency. We built a free-roam virtuality platform. So in Melbourne, we've got one set up that covers 400 square meters. It's 6 players multiplayer. We put people through a 45 minutes game. It's a 1-hour experience that's been running commercially since August. It's booked out 4 to 6 weeks in advance. It's a platform we've created ourselves. Our special sauce is integrating everything from the tracking down to the booking system and everything you need in between to actually commercially operate a virtual reality arcade. It is somewhere between, I guess, Tron meets laser tag is the concept. As you can see this gentleman here, it's a large space. Everything in terms of the safety and the way you onboard and off people is really, really smooth. We put about 7,000 people through now on this installation. It's our third time that we've set one up. And it's going really well.
Hi, I'm Fred Bayer. I'm the director and co-founder of Visuality Studio. We are a company based in the UK that have been effectively designing room-scale VR, initially for architecture and design, and we more recently looking at the virtual arcade market. One of the key differences is we design our own wireless headsets. So all the rendering, all the processing is done on a PC, but we have our own headsets that obviously display the content. We can put in up to 10 people within the track zone. We have pretty much no limit into the size of the room that we want to use for the content. And we also add props in it, so we can just use kind of a prop flashlight, laser gun, or anything like that.
Cool. Awesome. That's Christian. So I'm going to ask some questions, and we'll open up some questions to the audience, see how things go. My first question for Fred, you're manufacturing a lot of stuff, you're doing architecture. As far as amusements, what's your go-to-market strategy? Are you going to develop turnkey solutions and then offer them to sale? Are you going to operate yourself? How are you going to take your technology to market?
Well, two ways. I mean, we do have a whole package that people, such architecture obviously, and now Virtual Arcade can actually purchase as a whole package, including headsets, props, tracking. But we essentially at the moment are opening 3 studios in the UK. We're looking to open 1 in France shortly, and we are currently looking in Los Angeles for a room. The idea is to open studio not only for architecture, possibly for gaming. Architecture, I'll just come back on that, and designs has been, we've got an exclusivity deal in the UK to provide this to kitchen designers and architects, but also it can be used effectively for architects as well.
And when you say a studio, you mean like a development studio to develop experiences and things, or do you mean for open for consumers?
Sorry, we call it studio, but essentially, it's a motion capture studio that can be obviously bigger than what we have here to provide a wireless expert VI experience.
So Tim, so full disclosure, I'm actually doing some consulting for Zero Latency, and I just got back from Australia, where I got to play. And my question for Tim is, he's been open since August in the current location, and you're charging $88 Australian for a 45-minute experience. You're selling out 4 to 6 weeks in advance. Where do you think the price threshold is for this type of experience? You haven't raised your prices yet. And so how much people do you think willing to pay for, because Kevin was talking about a 3-minute experience, but these guys are pushing the envelope with a 45-minute experience.
I think given what we're offering at Zero Latency is something that you can't get at home. It's a 400 square metre space. It's a really premium destination experience, and that was something that we decided early in the piece, because if you're doing smaller scale room stuff, there's a risk that something like the Vive will basically cannibalize that market pretty quickly, and that the home market will quickly subsume what you can do at home if it's not big enough. So we went large. I think $88 is a psychological price point. I think if you go over $100, it's going to be hard to sell it. So we're actually looking at shortening the game time and charging a little bit more per minute, because the laws of supply and demand dictate that we're charging too little. But the most important thing for us initially was that we wanted to make sure that it was a reasonable price based on everything from hot air ballooning, go-kart riding. We went through the whole gamut of experiential entertainment. I think the first thing when you're pricing it is, it's not laser tag. That's not what you're bringing here. It's not something that was done. I think the first game of laser tag was created in 1986. That's not what we're all doing here. It's an expensive new thing, and people are happy to pay a premium price for it because it's new and they can't get it anywhere else. That's the first thing to remember. If you price it like laser tag, you're probably going to go broke, because that's a mature technology that is a lot cheaper to install than what you're trying to do with a premium experience. Also, if you keep it premium, people are going to keep coming back. We haven't spent $1 on advertising since January, and our ticket sales keep increasing, which indicates to me that the experience is so good. And if you look at where people are saying, like, where'd you hear about us? It's all friends of friends. It's all, I saw it on my friend's social media account. So that's really the proof in the pudding for me, is that it's something that's self-sustaining, and that's what's going to drive. You've got to spend 10 grand a month to generate 50 grand of revenue on that. You're going to rapidly just go broke, in my opinion, I think. So circle back to your question, what is the right price point? I think it's probably somewhere between $150 an hour and sort of $70 an hour, and it really depends on what you're bringing. I mean, we have a 400 square metre space, and it's big, it's expensive to rent, and that's why you can charge that kind of money, because people understand, especially once they've come, they go, okay, this is a serious enterprise. Is that
Australian or US?
That's Australian dollars. That's about 60 US.
I do want to be clear though, is from my experience in Australia, it's kind of dollar for dollar. They're, you know, I think buying power there, their dollar goes about the same, unless you're buying beer, it's ridiculously expensive there for some reason.
Yeah, but almonds are the same price per kilo in US dollars. I found out the other day.
So that leads me to my next question, which is, how long before the novelty factor of VR wears off? I think you mentioned laser tag. I was in the laser tag business in 1990, and we were getting it was a new thing, and we were getting a fairly premium price for it, but it wasn't nearly as expensive. Actually, a company called QZAR in the US was selling their system for like $500,000 plus franchise fees, so they were pretty expensive. But how long before the novelty factor wears off? I think Kevin mentioned that the guys at Oculus say 5 years before it really penetrates the consumer markets. Is that the trigger point, or is there something else? And I'd love to get the whole panel's thoughts on that one. Jeremy, you want to start?
So for the virtual arcade, we have, this is our vision. We don't think that the VR is a novelty per se, but rather it's the future. If we start playing VR games, and we're doing it now, we can't go back. This is the experience that we've always wanted to play and be the character. There's so much more opportunities in entertainment that we can unlock now. In terms of now you are the character in the story experiencing the game. You are physically sweating and working hard to go through that experience. And what if something bad happens? What is the additional emotional impact that we can make? We cannot have, that's not possible, hasn't been possible before in front of a 2D monitor. So for us, we think that it's the next step, and in terms of looking at history from arcades to console games to PC, and this is the next thing, and it's going to be hard to go back.
It does. I want to clarify the question though for the panel, which is, I agree. It's probably you're not necessarily going to pull it back, and it's not going to unravel. But at a certain point, people are going to get used to it. They're going to come to expect it, and at that point, can you still charge a premium for it, right? Or does it become what's expected? I think with video games, big 40-inch, 50-inch monitors and these big simulators were a novelty for a while, and the price of that experience was way beyond the price of a standard upright cabinet. Now those things are normal. Prices seem to have held. Maybe that's something that happens with VR, where we're just literally taking that gaming experience from 50 cents a minute to 75 cents a buck and a half. Is going to continue, but I agree with that. I don't think you're going to unravel it. But at what point do people just get used to it and it's no longer special?
Let's talk on that before I pass it off. So I think people pay for the value of VR. The value of VR that I see is it also brings people back together. It brings people back into the same room, friends together, yelling and screaming at each other. That's really the experience that I've always loved from my childhood. And as long as the value is there that we provide in that entertainment experience, and the new experiences and the killer experiences that will soon come out as VR becomes more and more prevalent and as studios start to hop on, that will continue gaining value. People will pay for that value.
I'm just getting over being sick, so I'm going to say. Yeah, I agree. I think content is what's going to keep the interest, the audience interest, and that I think will continue to evolve. The technology is probably going to continue to evolve, and so as long as the audience entertainment value is kept at the forefront of the industry, maybe the cost of it will drop. But I think VR has some long legs, and it's more difficult.
Well, it is a really new medium of entertainment, and I think we don't know how long it's going to last. I mean, the response that people have when they get into a virtual reality system, especially a free roam one where they've never, you sat with a Rift on your head at a desk, that's one thing. If you've never used one and you step into something like zero latency system where you're walking around for 45 minutes, 6 friends, walking almost a kilometre of virtual space, completely untethered, it is pretty mind-blowing. So I think people, the medium is solid. Like, it's very, very new, and it gives you a lot of scope. Content's definitely going to be the battle for the next couple of years. Like, someone needs to make the Angry Birds of virtual reality, free roam virtual reality, something that no one had even thought of until, like, a touch screen. It makes perfect sense. Something like shooting birds and pigs is now just why didn't I think of that? But it was revolutionary at the time, and people need to start experimenting with this content and come up with something that will definitely keep it compelling. But fundamentally, you need to keep offering a better out-of-home experience than you get at home. You look at the cinema industry, that went really well, then video, in-home video came, and that it didn't die, but it changed. And we've got to keep adapting. It's going to be content and it's going to be technology. At the moment it costs, like in Australian dollars, it's like $3.5 grand or it's almost 2,000 US just to have a go at VR at home if you don't want to gear VR. If you want to use HTC or Oculus, it's a couple of grand you've got to put down. And that's a lot of money for people, especially if you've already bought a PlayStation 4 for your kid, maybe buy the PlayStation version. So, but then you can essentially come and rent it $50, $60, you can have a go. As long as we keep making what you're getting at home is not as good as what's out of home, and that's just going to mean a lot of technology investment fundamentally. Every couple of years you're going to have to buy new haptic suits, better tracking, better controllers, investing in branded content, and that will keep it relevant. Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty much what Tim says, and this is the way we see it. We're also working on additional platforms for the entertainment market and media market. One of them is, for example, a motion platform with a VR racing helmet. So instead of just using a normal helmet, you have your VR racing helmet when you're racing car or anything else. It is a tricky development because most normal headset, in fact all headsets, have got an IMU board, International Unity board, and these units are affected by the motion of the platform underneath. Obviously the development we've done is completely independent of the motion platform, so you can still have your clean VR experience and feel the motion platform effect, which give you kind of an effect of G-forces. On the same basis, we can replicate obviously flight, spaceships, and anything like that. We're also looking at other VR experiences that replicate as much as possible the real experience. One of the things we're looking at is skydive jump. There's a lot of VR experiences with skydive jumps, but they're all obviously seated version. We would like to develop a real experience where you physically have to jump, and that's one of the things what developers are looking into. So it's all about reinventing a new platform that goes with VR that makes the experience always unique and always something that you can't get a hold of.
Cool, thanks. So, to talk about exploring and content. Content, obviously, content king. We've heard that forever. We've heard it in the amusement arena for a long time. In VR, it took the film industry's been around for 100-something years, so 30, 40, 50 years for it to really find its leg and figure out how to tell a story effectively. In the early days of VR, a lot of novelty, a lot of just kind of people being blown away by the experience of being in a virtual environment for the first time. Part of my question about novelty factor is that wears off, and it's no longer just enough to go in and be wowed by the immersion. Talk to me about your thoughts around story and how do you connect the dots from the early days of, wow, this is really cool, to the notion of story or space exploration. When I say space, I mean outer space, I mean the virtual space, because that to me seems like the most, from the VR experience that I've gone into, the fact that I can walk around and explore that virtual space to me was the most impactful. So just talk to me about your thoughts on, like, when does that happen? When do we build more rich, meaningful environments? Is it a year away? Is it 5 years away? And how do we get there?
Yeah, it's going to, fundamentally, I think it is going to drive it. And when we look at people who've come out of the system and talked about what they would like to see next, just experiencing a different world often comes up. Our game's quite a sort of frantic zombie shooter, and that's entertaining for people, but they definitely want to see more experiential stuff. That's going to be tapping into a wide market of content creation, because if you're just targeting the zero latency platform and you're spending 6 months developing experiential content and it can't go across any other platforms, I think that's what's really going to slow it down. That's one of my concerns going forwards, is how do we get as many good content creators as we can working across all the different platforms. I'm not sure how we get there yet.
It's funny that you say not just the outer space or the space itself, but part of what we're trying to do with Mantis is look at the audience from their inner space, looking at the storytelling as it relates to the viewer, engaging them not as just a passive observer, but as a star of the show, because we feel strongly that when you're in the virtual world, because you see it through your own eyes, it taps into your sense of empathy. And I think we have access to the sort of personal and emotional sensibilities that I don't think film and television have been able to get to. Games get to some degree, but I think VR is really, hasn't really been tapped into that deeply yet. Because of its newness, I think just the fascination of being in a new space is just cool. But optimally, to be able to affect somebody psychologically